When you were a kid, someone handed you a piggy bank. Maybe it was a parent, maybe a grandparent. They said something that felt like wisdom. Save your money. You'll be fine. And you believed them. Because why wouldn't you? These were the people who loved you most. These were the people who lived through hard times. These were the people who knew. Here's what nobody told you about that advice. It was true once, in a different economy, with different interest rates, with a different relationship between wages, prices, and time. But in 2026, that same advice, save your money, play it safe, keep it in the bank, is quietly destroying your financial future. And the cruelest part is doing it without your permission, without a single notification, without a single warning. Today, we're going to show you exactly how, more importantly, exactly what to do instead. Let's go back to where this started. The savings gospel was built on a simple, logical idea. Spend less than you earn. Put the rest somewhere safe. Let time do the work. And for most of the 20th century, that actually worked. In the 1980s, a standard savings account paid 8% interest. In some years, you could get 12% just for parking money in a CD. Inflation existed, but wages were climbing alongside it. The system was imperfect, but for the patient saver, it more or less worked. And then the rules changed. Not all at once, not with an announcement, not with a press conference or a warning label. The rules changed quietly, slowly, while you were busy living your life. Here's the metaphor I want you to hold in your mind for this entire video. Your savings account is not as safe. It is a wealth prison.
Oh.
And the thing about this prison is you checked yourself in voluntarily. The bars are made of comfort. The warden is called familiarity. Every single day you stay inside it, the walls get a little bit closer. Because here's the fundamental truth of 2026 that your bank's marketing department hopes you never think too hard about. Money sitting still is money moving backward, not metaphorically, not philosophically, mathematically. And we are going to prove it with numbers so clear they're almost offensive. Before we get to the math, I need to say something that might make you uncomfortable. The financial system is not neutral. It is not sitting there waiting for you to win. It is by design, by structure, by incentive, optimized to extract value from people who save and transfer it to people who deploy. The bank pays you 1% to hold your money, then lends it to someone else at 7%, 12%, 24%. They are deploying your capital and keeping the difference. You're not a customer of your bank. You are the product. And until you understand that, really understand it, you will keep checking yourself back into the wealth prison voluntarily every single month. Okay, let's do the math. And I'm going to warn you, this math doesn't care about your feelings. It doesn't care how hard you worked for this money. It doesn't care how responsible you've been. The math is heartless, but it's true. Your savings account interest rate in 2026, approximately 1%, maybe 1.5% if you shop around. Real-world inflation in 2026, and I'm not talking about the government's headline number. I'm talking about what you actually experience at the grocery store, the gas pump. The landlord's annual adjustment, approximately 5 to 7%. Now, subtract one from the other, negative 5% every year, and every dollar you save. That is not a bad return. That is not a return at all. That is a loss. A silent, invisible, federally acknowledged loss that nobody sends you a bill for because it's already been taken before you ever noticed it was missing. And it gets worse. Because the 5 to 7% inflation number, that's just the visible part. There's a second invisible tax operating right alongside it. It's called shrinkflation. The price on the shelf stays the same. But what's inside the package gets quietly, systematically smaller. Chip bags that are 20% air. Cereal boxes that are 15% emptier than 5 years ago. Toilet paper rolls with fewer sheets. Yogurt containers redesigned to hold 5 ounces instead of 6. That's not paranoia. That's documented corporate earnings strategy. And combined with real inflation, you're not losing 5% a year to your savings account. You might be losing closer to 8 or 9% in real purchasing power. Here's a simple way to feel that number. $10,000 saved today, earning 1% at the bank, with 7% real inflation. In 10 years, that $10,000 has the purchasing power of roughly $5,800. You didn't spend a penny. You didn't gamble. You didn't take a single risk. You lost $4,200. Quietly, invisibly, legally. Now let's talk about something that might be the most relatable thing in this entire video. You worked hard this year. You performed, you got the raise, maybe 4%, maybe 5%, maybe even 7% if you really crushed it. And for about 2 weeks you felt it, then the rent renewal came, and the car insurance went up, and the grocery bill crept another $40 higher. And you're standing in the same place you were before the raise, but now you're working harder to stay there. This is not an accident. Modern pricing systems, particularly in housing, insurance, and consumer goods, use real-time algorithmic adjustments that are specifically calibrated to absorb wage growth. Your raise isn't extra money. Your raise is already spent before it hits your account. And the saver, the person who takes that raise and dutifully deposits it into their 1%. Savings account compounds this problem because now they're not just losing to inflation. They're earning less than inflation on money that already represents compressed purchasing power. The math is not cruel. The math is catastrophic. Here's a paradox that will make sense of something you may have felt but never been able to explain. Why do people making $150,000 a year still feel broke? Not people who are irresponsible, not people with addiction problems or gambling habits, normal, educated, hardworking people. Earning 6 figures, they feel financially trapped. Here's why. High income, without deployed capital, is just a bigger treadmill. More money in, more money out. Nicer apartment, higher rent, better car, bigger payment, more responsibility, or stress. But the capital, the actual wealth-building engine, is sitting in a savings account. Losing 5% a year, while the cost of living rises around them like floodwater. The investor isn't necessarily earning more, they're deploying more. Every dollar above their emergency threshold isn't sitting, it's working, compounding, building. And here's the thing about the latte factor. The idea that if you just stop buying $6 coffees, you'll get rich. That's a lie. It's not the $6 coffee. It's the $40,000 sitting in a savings account, losing purchasing power every single month while you debate the coffee. That is the real latte factor. And nobody puts that on a motivational poster. Let's talk about the biggest lie inside the savings lie. The retirement plan. For decades, the pitch has been simple. Save diligently for 40 years. Put money in a 401k. Retire comfortably.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, particularly those who started in the 80s and 90s, that worked. But here's what the math looks like for someone starting today. You save $500 a month starting at 25. By 65, you've put in $240,000 of your own money. In a savings account at 1%, you'd have roughly $295,000. Sounds okay, right? Except in 40 years, with even conservative 3% annual inflation, $95,000 will have the purchasing power of approximately $90,000. After 40 years of disciplined saving, that is not retirement. That is the retirement mirage. You walked toward it your entire working life, and when you arrived, it wasn't there. But here's what changes when you deploy instead of save. Same $500 a month. Same 40 years. Same person. But instead of a savings account, you put it into a diversified index fund, averaging 7% annually. $1.2 million. Same discipline, same sacrifice, same monthly amount. For times the outcome, the math is heartless. At least when you understand it, it can be heartless in your favor. Let me give you one of the most powerful tools in personal finance. It takes about 4 seconds to learn. It will change how you look at every dollar you own. It's called the rule of 72. Divide 72 by your annual return rate. That's how many years it takes for your money to double. Let's apply it. Your savings account. 1% return. 72 divided by 1 equals 72 years to double your money. A basic index fund. 7% average return. 72 divided by 7 equals approximately 10 years to double. A well-chosen income-producing asset at 10% return. 72 divided by 10 equals 7.2 years to double. Now here's what that means in practice. You're 35 years old. You have $20,000 in the savings account at 72 years to double. That $20,000 doubles to $40,000 by the time you're 107. In an index fund, doubling every 10 years. At 45, $40,000. At 55, $80,000. At 65, $160,000. From the same $20,000 with no additional contributions. The difference between a saver and an investor isn't discipline, it's direction. Here's something that surprises almost everyone when they study how genuinely wealthy people operate. Billionaires don't keep cash, not because they don't have it, but because they understand something that most people spend a lifetime never learning. Cash is the worst asset you can own. Elon Musk doesn't have $200 billion sitting in a checking account. Jeff Bezos isn't stacking $100 bills in a vault. Their wealth exists as ownership. Ownership of companies, ownership of real estate, ownership of intellectual property, ownership of equity. Every asset they own generates income, appreciates in value, or does both simultaneously. Meanwhile, the loyal bank customer, the responsible saver who does everything they were told, owns the one asset that is constitutionally incapable of keeping up with inflation. And they call it safe. But here's what they don't tell you. The riskiest thing you can do in 2026 is stay safe. Okay, we've diagnosed the problem. Let's talk about the solution. And the solution is not complicated. It's not sophisticated. It doesn't require a finance degree or a hedge fund connection. It requires a single mental shift. Stop asking, where is my money safe? Start asking, what is my money doing? Once you ask that second question consistently, the path forward becomes obvious. Here's the framework. Think of your money in 3 tiers. Tier 1, the moat. This is your emergency fund. 3 to 6 months of living expenses in a high-yield savings account, not a standard one. In 2026, you should be earning at minimum 4% here. This money has one job: to protect every other decision you make. This is not where you build wealth. This is where you build permission. The permission to take strategic risks with everything above this line. Tier 2, the engine. Once your moat is funded, every dollar above your emergency threshold goes here. Low-cost index funds, broad market ETFs, maxed out tax-advantaged accounts, your 401k, your Roth IRA. This is the compounding engine. This is where the rule of 72 works for you instead of against you. This is where $20,000 becomes $160,000 by the time you want to use it. You don't touch this. You don't time it. You don't watch it daily. You feed it consistently, automatically, without emotion. Tier 3, the offensive. This is where the economy owners live. This is where once your moat is solid and your engine is running, you start making ownership moves. A rental property, a small business investment, a high-margin skill that earns you income beyond your salary, dividend-paying stocks that deposit money into your account, whether you work that day or not. And here's the beautiful compounding cycle that savers never experience. The income from your Tier 3 assets flows back into your Tier 2 engine, which grows faster, which gives you more capital for Tier 3, which generates more income. This is what wealth actually looks like. Not a number going up in a savings account. A machine that feeds itself. I want to leave you with one final reframe. Right now, for most people, their relationship with money is as a customer. Customer of the bank. Customer of the mortgage company. Customer of the credit card. Customer of the insurance company. And customers, by definition, are the people paying the system. But every single one of those institutions has owners. People who don't pay the bank, they receive from the bank. People who don't pay the credit card, they collect the interest. People who don't pay the insurance premium as pure cost, they hold the insurance company's stock. The transition from customer to owner doesn't require wealth, it requires direction. $500 in an S&P 500 index fund makes you a fractional owner of Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, and approximately 497 other companies generating revenue every single second of every single day. That is ownership. That is the other side of the system. And it's available to anyone willing to stop being a loyal customer to their own financial decline. Let's close with the truth. Saving at 1% while inflation runs at 6% is not caution. It is a slow financial surrender. Your raise is already spent before it arrives. The only way to outrun the system is to own part of it. The rule of 72 doesn't care about your feelings. It only cares about your rate of return. Billionaires don't keep cash, they keep assets. You can start doing the same today. Everything changes when you stop asking, where is my money safe? And start asking, what is my money doing? Here's your challenge for this week. Open your bank account. Look at your savings balance and ask one question. If this money has been sitting here for 12 months, what did it actually earn me? If the answer is less than inflation, and it almost certainly is, then this is the week you stop being a saver and start being a deployer. The economy is not waiting for you to feel ready. The inflation clock is not pausing while you think about it. Your future self cannot afford for present two to keep choosing comfort over compounding. The escalator going down is always available. The question is whether you're willing to find the other one. Links to the full Wealth Rules That Change Everything playlist right below this video. Every video in that series is a step up the escalator. See you in the next one.